My name is Tiffany, and I'm 37 years old. My husband Joseph and I have been married for 15 years, and we have two boys, Daniel, who's 13, and Ethan, who's 10. Life for us was always about juggling work and family, especially because Joseph's family owned a house cleaning business that had been in the family for 3 generations. The company had a good reputation in our town, a legacy built by Joseph's grandfather, who founded the business with a simple idea. Treat your employees with respect, and they'll take care of you. And that's exactly what happened, for a while at least. The company had grown steadily over the years. Joseph's grandfather eventually retired, leaving the business to Joseph's father. The transition seemed natural, and under Joseph's father's leadership, the company maintained its reputation. But everything changed 2 years after Joseph and I got married. Joseph's father passed away unexpectedly, leaving the company in the hands of Joseph's mother, Kimmy, and his sister, Donna. That's when things began to unravel, although we didn't fully realize it at the time. Joseph technically became the president of the company after his father's death, but in reality, he didn't have much control. Kimmy and Donna were the ones making all the major decisions. Joseph's title was more for show than anything else, which bothered him, though he rarely complained about it. He felt a deep sense of loyalty to his family and wanted to continue his father and grandfather's legacy, even if he wasn't the one running things. At first, things were stable enough. The employees who had worked for the company for years were loyal and hardworking, a testament to the way Joseph's father and grandfather had treated them. They knew how to handle any situation, and that stability allowed the business to keep going, despite Kimmy and Donna's questionable leadership decisions. But over time, cracks started to show. Joseph always believed that the company's success was due to the dedication of its employees. He constantly said, "The company runs because of the people who work here." However, Kimmy and Donna didn't see it that way. They treated the employees more like disposable tools than valued members of a team. Joseph often came home frustrated, venting about how Kimmy and Donna ignored his advice and undermined the hardworking staff. It was like they didn't understand or didn't care that the employees were the backbone of the business. I wasn't involved in the family business. I had my own job working at City Hall, and I didn't fully understand the inner workings of the cleaning company. But I could see how much it weighed on Joseph. He wanted to fix things, to make sure his family's business thrived and that the employees were treated fairly, but his hands were tied. Kimmy and Donna controlled everything, and Joseph had little power to change that. Things took a turn for the worse when my father got sick. We found out in the summer that he had a serious illness, and by the end of autumn, he was hospitalized. The doctors did what they could, but my father didn't make it to the new year. Losing him was devastating for me, and I felt lost trying to cope with the grief. I took Daniel and Ethan to my childhood home to be with my mother and help plan the funeral. Joseph stayed behind, buried in work, but he promised he'd join us as soon as he could. The days leading up to the funeral were a blur of emotions. I was heartbroken, trying to stay strong for my boys and my mother, who looked utterly drained from the loss of her husband. I kept hoping Joseph would arrive soon, but I knew how busy the family business was during the winter months. He assured me he'd make it, but as the funeral approached, I started to worry. Joseph finally arrived late the night before the funeral, looking exhausted and worn out. He had come straight from work, still in his cleaning uniform. The moment he walked through the door, he apologized for being late. "I'm sorry, Tiffany. I wanted to be here earlier, but things were crazy at work." "It's okay," I said, though my heart ached. "I'm just glad you made it." Joseph paid his respects to my father, standing by the coffin with his eyes closed in silent prayer. Watching him, I felt an overwhelming surge of emotion. The tears I had been holding back finally broke through. Joseph wrapped his arms around me, and for the first time in days, I allowed myself to fully grieve. Having him there made everything a little more bearable. The funeral was difficult, but Joseph's presence helped calm the boys. They were understandably anxious. It was their first experience with death, but Joseph's calm demeanor gave them some reassurance. My mother, though still visibly heartbroken, managed to hold on throughout the service. We got through it together, and for a moment, I thought the worst was behind us. But something gnawed at me. Neither Kimmy nor Donna had shown up for the funeral, not even to offer their condolences. I told myself they were probably swamped with work. It was the busy season after all. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was more than that. Still, I didn't say anything. Joseph was already frustrated with them, and I didn't want to add to his stress. 3 days after the funeral, Joseph had to return to work. The busy season wasn't over yet, and there were cleaning jobs that couldn't be postponed. "Give my regards to Kimmy and Donna," I said as he left, "and tell them I understand if they couldn't make it to the funeral." Joseph's expression darkened. "I'll let them know, but they could have at least called." I didn't argue. I knew he was right, but I didn't want to stir up any more tension. After Joseph left, I stayed with my mother and the boys for a few more days before heading back home. When we returned, I thought it would be polite to stop by the family business and thank them for letting Joseph attend the funeral despite the busy season. I brought a cake as a gesture of gratitude, hoping it would be a nice way to smooth things over. But when I arrived at the office, something felt off. The place was a mess. Papers were scattered across the desks, and empty takeout containers were piled up in the trash. My eyes landed on a sleeping bag in the corner. It was a familiar one, our sleeping bag. My heart sank. What was going on here? Just then, Joseph stumbled out of the bathroom, looking utterly exhausted. His hair was a tangled mess, and he moved like he hadn't slept in days. "Tiffany," he said, surprised to see me. "You're back. How's your mom doing?" She's okay," I replied, still trying to process the scene before me. "But what happened here? Why is there a sleeping bag?" Joseph sighed heavily and slumped into a chair. "It's a long story." I waited, sensing there was more to this than just the busy season. Joseph rubbed his eyes and leaned forward, his voice tired but tinged with frustration. "The employees collected some money to buy a gift for your father, but instead of using it for that, Mom and Donna, well, they took the money and went on a trip." My mind reeled. "What? They took the gift money?" Joseph nodded grimly. "Yeah. When I got back from the funeral, the house was empty. I called them and they told me they were on vacation. Said they came into some extra money. They were talking about the money the employees had collected." I was stunned. How could they be so thoughtless? Not only had they skipped my father's funeral, but they had also used the money meant to honor him for their own leisure. I felt a wave of anger rise inside me, but when I looked at Joseph, all I saw was exhaustion and disappointment. "I'm sorry, Tiffany," he said softly. "I know it's not right. I tried to talk to them, but they just laughed it off, said I was overreacting, that it was the busy season, and they needed a break." I reached out and rubbed his back, trying to comfort him even though I was seething inside. Joseph had been working nonstop, barely taking a break since the night before the funeral, and now this. Kimmy and Donna's complete disregard for their own employees, for my father and for Joseph, was beyond comprehension. The next day, Kimmy and Donna returned from their trip as if nothing had happened. They walked into the office, smiling and cheerful, with bags full of souvenirs. "We're back," Kimmy announced, handing me a towel as a souvenir. "Did the funeral go well?" I stared at her, speechless. How could they be so casual, so indifferent? Joseph, however, had had enough. He confronted them right then and there. "Mom, Donna, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending everything's fine. I'm leaving the company." Kimmy's face twisted in disbelief. "What are you talking about? You can't leave. This is a family business. You're supposed to pass it down to your sons." Joseph shook his head, his voice steady. "If my children decide they want to be part of the business one day, that's their choice. But I can't keep working here, not like this. I don't trust you two anymore." Donna scoffed. "You're being dramatic. You can't just quit." But Joseph was resolute. "I can, and I will. This company isn't what it used to be. You've lost sight of what Grandpa and Dad built. I won't be part of something that disrespects its employees and treats people so callously." I stood by Joseph's side, silently supporting his decision. It wasn't an easy one to make, but it was the right one. Kimmy and Donna didn't apologize or even try to understand. Instead, They were more concerned about what would happen to the business without Joseph. But Joseph had already made up his mind, and there was no turning back. Leaving the family business was a huge step, and we both knew it wouldn't be easy. Joseph decided to start his own cleaning company, using everything he had learned from his years working in the family business. The first year was tough, really tough. We struggled to make ends meet, and there were times when we wondered if we had made a huge mistake. But Joseph worked hard, and little by little, his reputation for meticulous work and fair treatment of employees spread. By the second year, things started to improve. We had regular clients, and the business was growing. By the third year, we were doing so well that we had to hire more staff. Joseph's dedication and commitment were paying off, and his business was thriving in a way that his family's company hadn't in years. Then one day, we received news that Joseph's grandfather had passed away. Even though we had distanced ourselves from his family, we knew we had to attend the funeral. Joseph's grandfather had been a huge influence on him, and it was his teachings that had shaped Joseph's work ethic and values. When we arrived at the funeral, the atmosphere was tense. Kimmy and Donna were there, of course, but they barely acknowledged us. It was clear that they still held a grudge about Joseph leaving the company, but we didn't let it bother us. We were there to pay our respects to the man who had built the business from the ground up. During the service, Joseph ran into some of the employees from his family's old company. They looked worn out and discouraged, and as they talked, Joseph learned that things had only gotten worse since he left. Kimmy and Donna had cut salaries, reduced bonuses, and pushed the employees harder than ever. Morale was at an all-time low, and many of the staff were planning to leave. That's when something incredible happened. A few of the employees approached Joseph and asked if they could come work for him. They were tired of being treated poorly, and they saw Joseph's new company as a fresh start, a place where they would be respected and valued. Joseph was surprised, but he welcomed them with open arms. He knew how skilled they were, and having them on board would only strengthen his business. Kimmy and Donna, however, were furious. When they found out that their employees were leaving to join Joseph, they confronted us at the funeral, accusing Joseph of stealing their staff and trying to sabotage their business. But Joseph didn't back down. He calmly explained that the employees were leaving because of how they had been treated, not because of anything he had done. The confrontation was ugly, and it was hard to watch. But in the end, Joseph stood his ground, and Kimmy and Donna were left with nothing but their bitterness. Over the next few months, Joseph's business flourished even more with the addition of the new employees. By the fourth year, we had expanded to multiple locations, and our reputation in the community was stronger than ever. Meanwhile, Kimmy and Donna's company continued to decline. They had lost the respect of their employees, and without Joseph's steady hand, the business eventually collapsed. It was a bittersweet moment when we heard that Kimmy and Donna's company had closed its doors for good. Part of me felt sorry for them. They had been given every opportunity to succeed, but they had squandered it with their selfishness and poor management. But at the same time, I couldn't help but feel relieved. Joseph had made the right choice by walking away, and our family was better off because of it. Now, as I look back on everything we've been through, I'm grateful for the journey. It wasn't easy, but it taught us the importance of standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. Our children have grown up watching their father build something from the ground up, and they respect him for it. They've learned the value of hard work, integrity, and treating people with kindness. If one day our boys decide to join the family business, I'll support them wholeheartedly. But it will be their choice, just as it was Joseph's choice to break free from the toxic environment of his family's company. We've built something we're proud of, Zrenia, and that's what matters most. Joseph's business continues to grow, and as we plan for the future, we're excited about what lies ahead. We've come a long way from those difficult early days, and now we're stronger than ever. Through it all, we've learned that sometimes walking away from the past is the only way to create a